Hello, my name is Scott Golightly, and I want to talk to you today about how you use database mail in SQL Server 2008 to be able to send mail from your database. The first thing I'll do is open SQL Server Management Studio and open the management node for that server. In the tree you see that we have an item for database mail. I want to point out that database mail is the replacement for SQL mail, which is in the legacy folder. SQL mail will be going away in a future release, so we should not use it. The difference between SQL mail and database mail is that SQL mail used MAPI and required that we set up a lot of different things on the server. With database mail it's relatively easy. Database mail starts off as being disabled by default, and there are several ways to turn it on. We can use stored procedures, we can use the SQL Server configuration, or we can just run a wizard, which will do the entire setup for us. So I'm going to go into my database mail. I'm going to say configure database mail, and once I've done that I start the database mail configuration wizard. Inside the wizard I am prompted for the information I need in order to set up database mail. I'll click next, and I want to start by setting up my mail, creating the SMTP accounts, the profile security, and system parameters. I'll click on next, and it'll tell me that the database mail feature is not available. That's because I haven't set it up yet, and it'll ask me if I want to enable this feature. I will say yes. It's going to ask me for a profile name. This profile name is something that I can use for many different users to send out email. I'll call it database mail profile 1. And then it's going to ask me to set up some SMTP or simple mail transfer protocol accounts. Database mail uses SMTP, and I'll set up my account, local server, and the email address I'm going to associate with that, administrator at, and then I need to give it a domain because I've set up my machine in a local work group and I don't have it joined to a domain and I don't have an email domain. I'll just use 127.0.0.1, which is the address for the local machine. My display name, SQL 2008 administrator, and the reply email address. If I leave this blank, it will just use the email address for sending, and my server is going to be localhost and on port 25. Now I've set up on Windows Server 2008 the SMTP server tool, so I've got a server running locally on this machine. Normally you wouldn't have that. Your mail administrators don't like you to set up mail servers on all sorts of different machines, and so you'll need to talk to your mail administrators and find out the name of the mail server or the address of the mail server and the port number, as well as the authentication information. One thing to be aware of is that if you're setting this up for Windows authentication using the database engine service credentials, if you have configured the database to run as either local system or local service, you cannot connect to other machines inside your domain or anywhere else, and so you will not be able to use that option. You'll have to use basic authentication or anonymous authentication. In my case, I've set up the local server for anonymous authentication. That's not generally recommended, as it can open up that mail server to be used to send spam out to other people. But since I'm on a closed network, I'll go ahead and use anonymous authentication. And now that I've set up this information, I can click Next. The next screen is going to ask me if I want to create the mail profile as public. If I choose to make it public, then any user who's set up as a member of the database mail user role in MSDB can use this profile to send out email. I click Next and come to the Configure System Parameters screen. On the System Parameters screen, I'm able to see the information about how many times to retry a mail, how long to wait between retries. I can set up a maximum size for email so that I don't send out large mail. I can specify the attachments that I'm not willing to send. In this case, it defaults to exe, DLL, VBS, JS. I can add in additional ones like COM and BAT. So I'm not sending out any executable content. I set up the maximum lifetime for the database mail executable. The minimum lifetime, and a logging level. And I can set this up so that it's normal, extended, or verbose. We'll leave it at the default of extended, and I'll click on next. I get a confirmation screen that shows the different settings that I've set up, and then I'm able to click on finish. Once I finish setting this up, I can click on close, and now I need to test my database mail. I'll right click on the database mail, and I will choose to send a test email. In the test email, I will send it to card.space@hotmail.com, which is a Hotmail account that I created for a different set of How Do I videos. If I had multiple mail profiles, I could choose which profile to send through, and then I'm going to click on the Send Test Email. It's going to show me that message number 1 has been queued up. One thing to be aware of is that database mail does use the service broker to queue mail messages, and so as I'm setting this up, if I have the SQL Server agent running, I may not be able to set it up because I need to get a database lock on the MSDB database. In order to get around that, normally I would stop the SQL Server agent for as long as it took me to set up database mail and then restart the SQL Server agent. We'll go ahead and go over to Hotmail now, and as I look at my account and click on the inbox, I see that I get an email message. This email message shows me that I got the message from administrator at 127.0.0.1, which is the email account that I set up, and that it's a test email sent from database mail on SQL Server 2008. I'm satisfied that the database mail is working correctly. So the last thing I want to show you is the ability that we have to view the mail log. So we're able to see informational messages and see details about those. If an error occurs, we'll see those as well. Now that my database mail is set up, I can use the sp_send_dbmail stored procedure to send email messages as part of regular processes that can include informational messages or results of queries or a bunch of other information. We've seen how easy it is to set up database mail. Really all you need is an SMTP server and a valid account on that server, and you can set it up very quickly and start sending out email to the administrators, to the people who should be watching your server, and to database users.